Hi, everybody. I'm Ed,
Hi, Ed. I'm Jefi.
and we're two realtors from two different coasts working to improve and grow. And we believe that you deserve a thriving business and live a balanced life. Your your journey from ideas to implementation starts now. And as you can tell, this is a live broadcast. So good morning, Jeffy.
Good morning, Ed. And I have to say that I'm West Coast and Ed is East Coast. And so I got up this morning at 6 to be ready for a 7 a.m. podcast on my side
On a Saturday morning, which
on a
I'm
Saturday
super
morning.
impressed. I'm super
Yeah, but do,
impressed that. Go ahead. Yeah.
do realtors ever get a day off? That's what I'm wondering.
I think when we're dead, we get a day off. I think that's kind of the
Although,
way. I think that's the way it works.
okay, now hang on. We are not teaching what we want to teach here. So we're going to talk about taking time off, right?
That's exactly right, and that's the name of this episode, which is for those of you old enough to remember the Go Go's, which, given our audience, is probably everybody. Vacations, vacations, all I ever wanted.
I'm going to spare you me singing that song really quick.
I would, I'd
You
love to hear
want to
that,
be
but maybe
spared.
off broadcast. Uh, so, so vacations, all I ever wanted. Um, Jeffy and I are both coincidentally coming off a couple of epic vacations,
It's
and
true.
and I think that realtors, we don't take enough time off. We tend to work
Hmm.
around the clock. That's kind of the natural way. The fear of loss that you might be missing out on something, and actually. That's a mistake, in our opinion, that you need to kind of
Yeah.
have some time to decompress and to think. And I found, and I think Jeff, you would agree, sometimes the answers come from that.
I
So,
would totally concur. And it's really talking to our audience about how to completely detach so that you can have that and what that looks like.
yep, absolutely. So, it's funny, we didn't plan it, but our vacations lined up at the same time, and they were both involved complete detachment. Let me repeat that: complete detachment from
Yeah.
the office and the workflow, which was a
Mhm.
new thing for me. And I don't know, Jeffy, was that a new thing for you?
No, I've been dialing this in for a long time, but it's never been as smooth as this one was. So I think that's part of what I really want to talk about today.
Well, great. Well, let's dive in. So, first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you went, and then how you detached,
Okay.
and then maybe we'll play around with some of the things that you discovered from that detachment.
Okay. So I had two trips that were very close together, actually 3 weeks apart, which was extremely stressful for me as a realtor who's doing a substantial amount of business. And I say that just because I think that a lot of times uh, agents who do a lot of business really feel that they can't leave. And I know we're talking to the whole audience, whether you're doing one deal a year or 100 deals a year, there is a space for you to leave and have time to have your brain reignited. So, my first one was my daughter's wedding. My oldest daughter got married, and I was gone for a week. And my biggest priority with that was to be 100% detached so that I wouldn't have to be solving problems or getting in the middle of things while I was gone. And I absolutely did zero work. Zero. Zero. Zero.
That is
And
awesome.
I think so too. And what's amazing about that is that there's a lot of prep work, and you and I can go into that as well to get ready to do that. It's not like something you just pack your bag and walk out and fly out of San Diego, but um, having a team that has your back, that has systems in place so that you can detach is how you make it happen. So I think that the systems part of it is super important to discuss, but also I don't know if you've listened to our podcast, Jeffy's Got a Burner, but that piece of this puzzle changed everything for me. because when I was checking my phone, because Jordy would be calling me and saying, "Hey, meet me here, do this," I wasn't looking at my work phone and getting caught into the abyss of work stuff. I was looking at my own personal phone. So all that's on there is phone. There's
Right.
nothing else on there. Yeah.
And if y'all haven't listened to that yet, we'll have a show link at the bottom of this so that you can go back and listen to it. And that's a really important technique that Jeffy's honed in on. And I think you'll all get a great insight into that. What
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in is, and maybe in future episodes we can dive into more of the mechanics. But what were some of the insights that you got from that complete detachment?
Well, with our jobs, as you know, it's this, your eyeballs pop open and you're checking emails and doing things, and you're in the middle of an escrow, the beginning of an escrow, the end of an escrow, you're showing buyers, you know, we wear so many hats that my brain was exhausted. And so what I decided to do was give myself a question. Is that what you're asking me about? My questions?
Yeah, just kind of like, more like, so at the wedding, so you gave yourself the space and the
Ah,
time to be completely
yeah,
detached.
yeah,
And so, with that space, did you have any observations that
sure.
came up?
Okay.
And I
I
can give you an
understand.
example from my side if this is a little more difficult than you're thinking.
Well, I understand. I'd love to hear your example too, but yeah, I think I have a kid, and I gave birth to this kid, and now this kid is joining lives with someone else, and here I am watching this unfold with absolutely zero interruptions, with absolutely zero thought of a client's plumbing issues or their roof leaking or they've lost their cat. Like I didn't think about those things ever during that time. And so to be able to watch Jordy and Noah join their lives together and be in that moment with them is priceless for me. Because
Yeah.
past Jefi would have been like, "Oh, I just should check my email really quick. I should, check in on so and so." And I didn't do that.
And so you gave yourself the gift of the space to
Hmm.
enjoy one of, life's most significant moments. I mean, it's right up there, and that is a gift
Absolutely.
that you gave yourself. And you had the infrastructure and the team in place, and you developed tools to be able to
Hmm.
allow you to have that.
Yeah.
And we'll dive into in subsequent episodes into those tools because I think it's really important for people like us who are trying to figure this out and grow,
Hmm.
but do it in a way to where we can have a balanced life. So
Sure.
that's super, super cool.
You
I'm
know,
gonna.
if I,
Oh, go ahead.
Ed,
Go ahead.
Ed, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but if I was listening to this podcast, I would definitely want to know just a general outline of what the tools were. So I'm just going to give 3 bullets.
Do it.
Number one, you have to let every one of your clients know that you're leaving, and when you'll be home and who their point of contact is. That's number one, because you don't want them calling your phone and freaking out that you're not there, even though all your systems are in place. So there's one. Number two is having a very comprehensive meeting with your team to make sure that they understand exactly what you're leaving behind for them. And with my team, we actually meet 2 times a week for at least 3 hours. And then on the week before I'm leaving, we meet every day so that they're part of what unfolds. And
Right.
then number three is having all the information that you need in your team's phones, so they have all their phone numbers, their names, their email addresses. Everything is in that space because most people communicate via text and phone. And so to have all that in there just makes it so smooth. So those are 3 things. I mean, there's so many more, but I think that if I was listening, I'd really want those nuggets.
Yeah. No. I thank you for sharing that. And I think on my side, and again through being exposed to some of these tools through Jeffy, I've put that in place too. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know if our guests know this yet or not, but I've formed my team. I had an assistant pre-COVID, and then during COVID, she had to take another position, so I lost her. I got that assistant replaced first quarter of this year of 2021, and then brought on a buyer specialist about 6 weeks ago. So right before, literally right before I went on vacation, which was a really interesting timing.
You lucked
But we're
out.
Oh yeah, I hired her. I hired a unicorn. She's doing great. But all these things have, it's like just been coming together, and in rapid fashion. And one of the things I learned from Jefi was doing a twice a week meeting. So we do that as
Mm.
well. We meet twice a
Hmm.
week. We roll through the entire pipeline. We use Trello as a tool
Yep.
to review that with all the
Yep.
steps, and that has made a huge difference and allowed me to step away. And then we had like the daily meetings right before walking up before I headed out on my trip. So might talk about mine a little bit, if and some of the insight
Absolutely.
there. So I too had two um, vacations back to back, separated by like 2 weeks. So we had the same model. And the
That was
first
crazy.
one was my wife Lynn and I were out in Canyonlands in the Utah desert, um, as remote as you can be in
Hmm.
that area, which is a very remote national park. So we were on a mountain biking adventure um, in an area called the Maze. And there are only about 500 people a year that go into that area and do what we did.
It's pretty
So there's
amazing.
nobody there. There's
Yeah.
nobody there. And we were supported. We were on a tour, that had this completely badass truck that could navigate this area, and it was challenging on a lot of different levels,
Yeah.
and really got people out of their comfort zone,
Right.
um, which I love. And but so no contact with the office, completely unplugged,
Not even if
and
you
just
wanted to. There was no cell service.
no cell service. I
Yeah,
mean, you
exactly.
are off the grid, and
Right.
there's nobody out there. Like, it's crazy. And for me, to be, I just recharge when I'm out in nature and when I'm pushing myself like that. Literally sleeping under the stars, no tent, 2 nights because we could do that, and watching the shooting stars. Seeing sunrise in the morning. In just complete nature and isolation, incredibly restorative.
Yes.
So so one of my takeaways, and it relates to our business, is that, and there were on this tour there were a total of 7 guests.
Yep.
So there were 7 of us, and not, Lynn and I knew each other obviously, but that was it. So
Yeah.
we got to know each other even more on this trip. But so you meet people, and I love that. You just kind of come together, and you're living with them shoulder to shoulder nonstop for a week, and then you depart.
Yeah.
And it's just a great way to meet people, really interesting folks. Um, and so what I noticed on this trip is that people really struggle to live in the moment, to truly live in the
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know what's coming next. What if there's a storm coming? Or what's the terrain coming up? How, all these things are just pinging in their minds. And I
Mm-hmm.
struggle with that too. I could feel myself drift into that. But I've had enough outdoor adventure experience to where it was like, no, just pull to the moment. You are here now.
Right.
Um, and so that was really interesting. And what I saw is that when people don't live, they start to not live in the moment, they lose their confidence.
Mm-hmm.
They start worrying about things that are way down the line and outside of their
Right.
control. So a great example of this, one of the women on the trip, she was actually a really good mountain biker, but she didn't have a lot of outdoor experience. And
Yeah.
we had a day where it was a short mountain bike ride, but through really, really heavy sand. And the guide said, it's going to be, we're going downhill through this, you'll be fine,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to be a struggle coming back. So he kind of
Right.
set that tone. And then we did a massive hike down to the Colorado River. So, 1,500 feet, vertical going down, spent the day at the Colorado River, 1,500 feet back up. So that
Right.
takes it out of you. That's a big day. Hot. So, you're rolling through water. And she was freaking out about that 3-mile bike ride and the anticipation of that. all the way back.
Hmm.
And I knew she was strong enough to do it. It was,
Yeah.
but the guide had set this expectation of it's going to be hard, and she was worrying about it. And you know, I said, well, when I was a scout leader, I used to tell my scouts, whether you believe you can do something or you can't, you're right. I just kind of threw that out there, and I could see her chewing on it.
Right.
And then she was like, okay, I can do this, and we got connected in the moment, and she crushed it. Just totally
Yeah.
did a great ride through the sand. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that's kind of a lot of the things in our business. We worry about where's my next deal coming from.
Sure.
What's gonna, can I find a house for this buyer? Oh my gosh, are we gonna have to have a price reduction discussion? All that stuff. It's like, hey, just be in the moment and do your job.
Yeah. Here, I have an exercise for us and for everybody
Okay.
listening.
Yeah.
Give me one example in your business of when you weren't living in the moment in your business and it didn't benefit you. Can you think of
Ooh,
one?
I'm gonna think. Do you have one in mind? And then I might
Well,
ponder mine.
yeah, I think that I definitely have when when I've been with clients and I have a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So I've got a closing that day. I need to call the client and let them know we've recorded, or um, I've got paperwork that needs to get into another agent for counteroffers that are out, and I'm in the car driving and showing property. When I'm not living in the moment with that client because I'm thinking about everything else, I'm missing cues from that client. I'm missing, oh, well, this would be a much better neighborhood, or they didn't really like this, or they loved this. And so, what it does is it actually extends the amount of time that I spend showing a client. And this is just one example, showing that client property because I wasn't cued in enough in that moment to take care of them. And that's where, having your systems in place, or an assistant or a business partner or whoever can be handling those other things. So I would say that's a big one for me.
That's that's very good. I've one popped in my head when you brought this up, which so I go to all my closings,
Yeah.
except for COVID. That knocked it out. I think I'd missed one closing in 19 years. And then COVID, we didn't go to any of them,
Right.
obviously. And now that we use attorney. It's North Carolina
It's
is an
different.
attorney state, so it's different.
Right.
So I said, I'm going to start going again because I think it's important. Um, and what I noticed is that the temptation at the closing table to look at your phone and
Oh,
to like,
yeah. Ugh.
and it's like, don't do that.
Uh-huh.
It's like, it's just another transaction we're finishing up for us. Like, it's a big moment for our clients, right?
Huge moment.
Huge moment. And it would be like, how would you feel if at the wedding, if like the officiant was checking his email while he was doing that, right? Because or,
Right.
whoever, however that was done, right? That's
That's a
just an
great
example. It's
one.
like,
It's a great one.
yeah, oh yeah, I marry 60
Hmm.
people a year.
Right.
This is just
Yeah.
another
So
deal, you know,
what's going on
right?
here?
Yeah, exactly. Oh wait, I got a text. I got I mean, how would that make you feel, right? And you
Terrible.
watch it. You'll see agents do that. I mean, I've done that. And
Yeah.
I a while back, I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
You
That's
know,
being in the moment.
you got to
And
be in the
what that
moment.
does too, and especially for us who work within the Buffini system, which is something that we talked about in our first episode, if you want to go back to that one. But this is, we work by referral, and everything that we do for our clients is mostly in the nature of the humans that are part of Buffini. I would say that they're good hearted, good, hardworking people who really care. But we get so caught up in, oh, it's just a second, it's just a moment, it's just this, it's just that. But you're right. I mean, that was a great example of the officiant. And that's a really, really, really good one. Um, okay, so here's my next one because you mentioned this. Um, what you believe is what's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
do you have one for that in work?
Oh yeah, I think so. And it's recent. Is that And again, I'll be starting my 20th year in residential, right? And 8 years in commercial, and it took me
Hmm.
that long to get a buyer specialist, right?
Yeah.
and and I resisted that,
Yeah.
um, for various reasons, personality stuff, and then, it was at the right time, and then you know set it as a goal, made that happen, and then because I believed it could, wrote a very very specific job description, long, exactly what I was looking for.
I read it, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Well, you sent it to me. Yeah, it was
That's true. Yeah,
great.
that's true. I'm
I
glad you
only
read
had
my stuff.
one suggestion.
You did. That's right. We'll talk about that one later.
Okay.
So,
He
but
wanted to hire a pole dancer, and I said no.
that's right. Dang it. Next
JK.
time.
Just kidding.
Ne- Next time. You kill me. But but and so with intention, wrote that job description,
Right.
and you still get a lot of chafe in there, but then Renee responded to it as like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And so we got that match, and it was just a perfect match, because it was, I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for, and she's like, this is exactly what I want. And as Lynn said, she goes, did you guys meet on Bumble? You know, it's
I love Lynn.
like,
She's so funny.
she's really
That's
funny.
awesome. That's
You have
awesome.
to be to live
That's
with me. So,
I would
so I,
concur.
that's right. That's right. So that was mine. What's
That's
yours?
good. Um, Mine is more based around, well, I am such an optimist anyway, and I don't really know very many people that are as optimistic as I am. Maybe you, but
This
I
guy.
know. But what I normally do is that when I have something that unwinds in an escrow, well, just recently, let's use this one. As is purchase, multiple offers. I was representing the seller. I actually met the buyer's agent and the buyers at the property before we chose them, because I wanted to walk the property with them and make sure that they understood that it was as is. So they'd read the inspections, they knew exactly what they were buying. Went through this whole thing. Yes, oh my gosh, yeah, we love it. It's perfect. I'm like, okay, well, they're a little excited, but I think that they wouldn't lie to me in my face and say something that wasn't true. Well, there's a yes, they would. Anyway, so a couple weeks later, we get a request for repairs. It's for $20,000 for upgrades, not repairs, upgrades.
Not
So
not cool.
no, I mean, I literally went, okay, can you find something in the report, buyer's agent, that they could at least say that this was something they didn't know? No. So, okay, my point is whatever you believe will be the truth. So I believed that we could keep this thing together. And so in those moments, what I normally do is I spend a lot of time unwinding behind the scenes before I share things with the seller, because once that comes into the mix, and if their mindset starts going, we're never going to make this happen, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. So usually I do the I believe we can, and then present, here's where it was, here's where it is, what do you think about that? So maybe that's a little bit of magic making in the background, but I do believe that if you have a good attitude about that kind of stuff, it will unfold in the proper way.
Yeah, you can't freak out, and
No.
I usually say, hey, got a little bump in the road.
Hmm.
you know, we're gonna get there. You got
It's
a
called Mount
little.
Everest. This bump
I
is
got
Mount Everest right
it's
now,
It's
but
Mount Everest, but we'll get through it.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. So
yeah,
I think
we
those are
had we
good.
had a similar thing yesterday. So Renee closed her first transaction
Good
from
job,
showing
Renee.
all the way through, all on her
That's
own.
awesome.
But we just had all this drama in the 11th hour, that was
Hmm.
kind of needless.
Yeah.
Didn't need to be that way. And because it's her first transaction, those scare you. But I'm like,
Hmm.
it's gonna close. It's not that bad. Like, we haven't done anything wrong. We're on firm ground. Um, they're not gonna walk. We just got to get through this,
Yeah.
and we got through it. But you've got to be that cool head,
Yes.
and calm folks down. So,
Yeah.
as you
That's
know,
true.
Lynn is an pediatric ICU nurse, and
Yep.
she always told me the mantra: "You're not the one coding." So when you're in an intensive care unit and the monitors, like somebody's in a real tragic situation, life or death, literally,
Right.
you can't cross the line
No.
because it's not you. And the moment you do that, you can't serve your patient, in our
Yeah.
case, clients in our case.
Yeah. You know, Ed, we're getting to the end of our time frame here, and I want to make sure that we don't forget to come back to this because one of the greatest tools that we can have as realtors is we're not the one coding. And if we lead by that Lynn example and we walk our walk during these escrows, clients, whatever. I mean, even though they're not an escrow, we're the calm leader. And can we check in with ourselves and make sure that we actually are that person?
Great point. And I think
Yeah.
that's where, to kind of complete the circle, that's where taking the time off is really important, because this is it's not life or death, so that's good. It's not the ICU, but
Hmm.
sometimes it feels like it,
It
and
does.
it gets really emotional. It's a highly emotional asset that we're working with.
Yeah.
And sometimes it brings out the best in people, sometimes it doesn't. And you
That's
got to be
correct.
and you got to be the cool head, and that takes you need to have the respites to be able to serve your clients that way.
Sure. And in the same token, that you also have to know that you're not so important that your clients are going to literally code if you go on vacation.
Yeah, exactly. I,
Someone else can take care of them.
yeah. So I want to close this with one more story from the trip, and then we'll wrap it up because we are
Okay.
getting there.
Thank God.
But I know it's early for you. Um, so this trip we took, it concluded, where we've been out in the wilderness for 5 days. You pop out onto a road, right on it for, on pavement for like 3/4 of a mile. And then there's the truck with lunch set up, and then literally adjacent to this tiny little airstrip, and an airplane's going to fly us out, like a 8-seater airplane. And for 3 days, everybody had been, I think before the trip, people were completely freaked out about that flight. That was like, I
Yeah.
know Lynn was, she was like, oh my God, I'm so excited about this, but that flight's freaking me out,
Yeah. I would be
because
that
it's
same way.
out of your comfort zone. And I didn't
Hmm.
show her that there was a sign. I wish I would have taken a picture of it, but it was like, airport rating, hazardous, use at your own risk. And I didn't point that out.
Good.
And
That
I'm
was probably
like,
pretty
okay.
smart.
And you're looking like short little runway, you know like huge butte right in front of it, so the plane has to like take off and bank over the Colorado River to get
Ugh.
out.
Sounds terrifying.
Everybody's freaked out. Like, people were talking like, I'm going to ride home 4 hours on the truck, I don't want to do this, blah blah blah. And it turned out the highlight for everyone
Yeah.
loved it. It was
Isn't that
so
amazing?
cool because we got up in the air, and then we flew over our route, and we saw where we were. But it was like, yeah, if you would have lived in the moment and not thought about that, it wouldn't have been weighing on you. So cross those bridges
Yes.
when you get there.
Yes, exactly. That's a really good one. I love that story.
So with that, I think it's time to land this plane, and
I
we'll
would agree.
sign
You and
off
I can
for.
talk.
We can, but hopefully y'all are getting something out of this. Again, Jeffy's in San Diego. I'm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We bring different perspectives to things, and We look forward to your feedback and can't wait to do the next episode with you.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Bye, everyone.
Bye. See you next time.
Next time.